Around the end of 2020, I made 4 Minecraft videos. Obviously, I was playing a lot of Minecraft at the time. One of these videos hints at things far more sinister at play, though I hadn't intended to tell this train wreck of a story, until now. At the start of October, I was invited by Onion to play on a Minecraft server. The server was formed of factions, having clauses for wars and bounties. Merrick and I set out to create what would eventually be called Netherstar Incorporated. Soon after, more of my friends joined the server under their own banner as THH. The server amassed 4 factions and around a dozen people, but thanks to a mending villager in the early game, Merrick and I soon became some of the richest people on the server through trade. Diamonds, netherite, we were drowning in riches. Zealous had even agreed to give me shulker boxes after the Ender Dragon was killed. And at this point in the story, everything starts to go downhill. You see, I wasn't content with waiting. I had only used shulker boxes in one survival playthrough before, and after becoming so attached, I wanted them now. I asked when we were going to fight the dragon, and I received a response that was less than helpful. Not to be dissuaded, I searched for a stronghold, and late at night, I gathered members of THH and my own faction to fight the dragon. We'd left a cheeky message, I snatched the egg, and Zealous went to the outer islands to repay his debt. In the days that followed, the server admin reiterated their stance on the dragon fight. It was to be a server-wide event. Whoops! At that moment, we knew we couldn't let anyone else know about the dragon, or even about us going to the end. And then I openly talked about my shulker boxes while Onion was in the call. The original script reads, "It was October 18th that Judgment Day came." Essentially, the server admin gave permission to another faction to enter the end, provided they don't kill the dragon. This faction, known as the Great Duchy of Lapis, immediately noticed the lack of dragon and reported it to the admin. The whole server was thrown into a panic. Those who were innocent were trying to find the killers, and those who were guilty were trying to cover our tracks. To cover our act, we started lying and providing misinformation. However, Merrick had a working moral compass and refused to take part. We eventually got him to agree to not spill the secret through sheer numbers, and that was one of the last times he logged onto the SMP. Being the richest nations on the server, we easily bribed Onion to keep quiet. All he asked was for the dragon egg, and while I intended to keep it as a trophy, not being sus was more important, and I figured that I would reclaim the egg when the time was right. Over on the innocent side, the admin went through the most recent server logs, because Aternos only keeps one save log at any given time, and concluded that a player named Taco from the Duchy was guilty because he was the first player to enter the end in the log file. Upon dispute, the admin made the log public and asked the people to come to their own conclusions. Now, there's a lot of things that you should never do if you own a server, and one of them is leaking the goddamn server logs! These logs contain information that's sensitive both in and out of game, such as the IP addresses of anyone who logs on. Luckily, the hosting site for the log file blocked out the IP addresses, but other than that, all the info was on display. If there was someone who knew what type of info was in those files and how to dig through it, they could get the location of every player's base on the server. Meet my right-hand man. He owned our previous server and knew exactly how to use the log files. One of the things recorded was the location that every player logs in or out at, which usually means a base because people don't typically log out in the wilderness. Onion and I decided that we would meet at the Duchy's base to exchange the egg. After a quick tour and some slander, I gave up the egg and Onion made his way through the nether back to his base. Onion ended up dying on the way home, and what's worse is that the egg despawned along with the rest of his stuff. I became very irritated, but feared that any action taken against him would prove that I had something to do with the dragon. Days passed and a new opportunity presented itself. Onion and I had made a new deal, that I would give him dozens of normal eggs, and that he would give me the location of an ice spikes biome. I delivered my eggs, but Onion failed his delivery. This would have been a perfect time to strike, but I only realized that the next day. Back when Onion and I met at the Duchy's base, I left quickly, but Onion stuck around to do some griefing. I figured that the Duchy would be mad about this, and decided to contact one of its members to see if I could turn my own bloodthirst into a paid assassination. I sent DMs to Taco because out of all the members, he was the most volatile, the most easily disturbed. To ensure that he wouldn't refuse, I asked him for the stupidly low price of 24 emeralds, which he immediately accepted. Funded by Zealous's gapples and potions, Onion stood no chance. I showed Taco my results and asked him to deposit the emeralds into a chest around 1,000. But 2 weeks passed without any results, so I knew what I had to do. I wasn't content with mere bloodthirst. At the time, I was mad enough to want to wager a war, and if there was ever a time to do it, it would be now. I started the war, and Taco immediately pussied out of the server, but my right-hand man managed to convince Taco back onto the server, claiming he had a chance to fight back because I was at a major disadvantage. Apparently, if you don't know what a trackball mouse is, it seems absolutely impossible to use. Come on, guys. At that moment, I shifted my priorities. I had already declared war, but I didn't want the server to die from inactivity. I decided to put player activity first and stand on the thin line between increasing interaction and mercilessly destroying my enemies. For weeks, nothing happened. I kept logging on, trying to worm any secrets about the location out from the duchy, to no avail. I started to go mad over this, but silence couldn't hold forever, and eventually, Taco managed to piss off one of his allies enough to leak the coordinates at 9,000 blocks out. Are you serious? The members of the duchy had managed to log off before I had arrived, but their pet zombie didn't. Taco's ally had given me the base location on the condition that I execute the zombie, so I made this video as proof. Though I didn't end the war quite yet, it was enough to satisfy me for that night. Taco moved again, and around this time, I realized my base was open to the sky with no deterrent from destruction of my homeland. Anyone flying near spawn could find the rainbow beacon shining bright. The weeks of no news had turned me mad, so instead of hiding my base like any sane person would, the deterrent I chose was mutually assured destruction. 9 withers to go is quite a lot for anyone who's not being paid to be an anarchist on Minecraft, and I had stacks of TNT to complement it. With my newfound confidence, I publicly disclosed my own base's location and waited. On the 23rd of November, I was busy playing Ark Survival Evolved when my right-hand man informed me that Taco and his friend Technostrap had arrived. I quickly logged off Ark and joined Minecraft, where I gave them a tour of my house like I promised I would. I was tired of fighting, tired of this endless conflict, and I gave Taco a totem of undying to show that I was not entirely evil, that I was at least partially a victim of my situation. But this war had to end, so I invited Taco to a room with the exit blocked off, and before he knew what was going on, I started my attack. His netherite armor was strong, but my blade was stronger, and his totem saved his skin. But with no escape, his demise would be delayed rather than prevented, and I had no intention of stopping. But my right-hand man unblocked the exit and let Taco escape. For weeks, I was planning this attack. I was looking forward to being free from this burden, but my right-hand man stopped me in my tracks. I had been betrayed. His reasoning was that I would have ended the server, which he now owned. He thought that by killing Taco and taking his stuff that everyone would stop playing. After all, the server was already struggling in that department. What he didn't account for was the fact that I wasn't gonna take Taco's stuff. I was well aware of the line I needed to straddle, and despite the numerous times I had explained my plan, he had completely failed to listen. In shame, he exiled himself from my clan, and I was left alone. For some reason, Taco returned to the scene of the almost crime. He also wanted the war over and requested that we have a fair duel in low-tier armor to end it all. I'm not particularly skilled at PvP, so I never wanted to take a fair fight, but Taco took off his armor and opened a chest to grab an iron set. It was too late for him. An unarmored opponent was just asking to die, and in 3 quick strikes, I'd finished what I set out to do weeks ago. The server became peaceful once again. Too peaceful. After briefly messing with Rice's carrot farm, the server became incredibly inactive, and was set to be shut down at the end of the year. My madness hadn't fully left me. I still had those withers ready to go, and I decided that if everything was to disappear, I might as well blow it all up. Zealous joined me for this act, and at my own base, he declared it was finally time. For the entirety of the server's lifespan, our factions were allied, but during Armageddon itself, he attacked. And after all I'd been through, I welcomed my death. So that's the story. It's disjointed, it's disappointing, and quite frankly, it didn't have a reason to exist. For months afterward, I tried to make the video work, but having forgotten to record so many important moments, I scrapped the entire project and deleted all of the original footage. The only thing I had left was its script, and it was just collecting dust at the bottom of one of my folders. For months, I was convinced that this video couldn't have a purpose. But now I see it does. I needed to make this video because I needed to test out a new recording configuration. See ya!
Absolutely none of this was worth it!